Is this outrageous?
Yeah, we're back on the air. It is outrageous. I'm Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy, Susan Olson, Dr. Baer is here, Josh Youssef. We have a full room and lots of people are going to talk. I am going to turn over my headset in a second so we can have a conversation. It's way more important than me prattling on about useless things. So go ahead, introduce, and I will give my headset to Josh.
Right. Well, Dr. William Baer, otherwise known as Billy, I want to say thank you very much for spending some time here with us at GrokTALK, a production of GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's leading conservative and libertarian blog site. And, sir, between you and Josh, your film, Josh Youssef, who ran for the state senate last cycle, you guys have made a huge, huge impact on the state, on the consciousness of not just New Hampshire, but the U.S. as a whole. Every time I look around on the TV or on the blog sites or anything else, guess what I see? And
probably my daughter, right?
Well, your daughter, who is sitting over here as well. You know, we've Steve put up the videos both of your run-in with our esteemed school board, showing just the same tactic I have seen over the years, where here's a citizen coming in to seek redress of what they considered to be a wrong and being stonewalled by a 2-minute tactic and the refusal to even acknowledge anything that you said. And you know, a lot of people are out there saying good job, supportive, but as I just told your daughter, as she was standing there, she, with her speech that she made a huge impact, because here is, as you said, this was an ongoing civics lesson, and this was an introduction to a young malleable mind of this is what happens when your government turns against you. When your elected officials say, screw you.
Well, the reference to the civics lesson, a couple of things to make clear. Number one, the doctor thing. I mean, Josh was emphasizing the doctor part in some of the video to have the officer see that I wasn't like some,
riffraff,
whatever. So, and I have a doctorate. I mean, I have a Juris Doctor, so I am a doctor, and some attorneys do use the term doctor, but I just want to make that clear so people don't think I have a PhD or an MD or something. And also, the reference to the civics lesson was specifically content-based or context-based, because the elementary school had a whole program before we got started with our stuff. And they were talking about that this is going to be a civics lesson. You're going to see how something to the effect of how government works or something like at this level. That's why I said, what kind of civics lesson is it? And the sunglasses is not that I'm trying to look cool. I just haven't barely slept in days. I could thank Lieutenant Leach for that. Also, a little shout out to the lieutenant. I lost 5 pounds. I saw myself on the video, and I thought, like, I look a little paunchy there. So I've been so aggravated and so busy with the radio shows and the television shows that I've hardly eaten and been, all the stress and everything. So I have lost about 5 pounds this week. So thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Lieutenant Leach.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a stormtrooper diet.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't have any. I mean, I understand he got the sign from, obviously on the video, he got the sign from the superintendent of the school board, and he was following orders. So that's how it goes. So I understand. Well, I'm not saying that, but that's whatever it is. That was his role, and he, so I don't have any personal animus toward him, and. That's about it.
No, I would say, being a resident of Guilford, this was rather shameful on the part of my elected officials. And it's been the same set of folks at the helm of that Guilford School Board for quite some time. And they have become entrenched. They have been there. Well, I consider them arrogant right from the get-go. And you can very easily see that if you watch their face and if you watch their body language. I mean, they knew what they wanted to do right before the meeting ever started, and that they weren't going to listen to you. And I'll tell you something. I've seen commentary after commentary and commentary that if you took that one page 313 out of the 19 minutes book, and if you were standing, imagine what would happen if you were standing in the parking lot of the high school handing that out to all the kids going in school. What would have been done?
Oh, well, that was one of my examples, I think, in the press, and also privately with the principal. I said, if I or you, whatever, an adult man was standing outside in the parking lot handing out that page, let's say it was a marketing campaign for Jodi Picoult's book, 19 Minutes, or whatever, something that's not that they were soliciting minors for something that they shouldn't be doing, but even something like they'd get arrested. There's no question they'd get arrested. And the idea that right behind the glass, on the other side of the door, the school is doing this, and they're not telling us about it. And just for the record, so it's clear, because a lot of people don't know this, and I know that there are articles all over the country and newscasts all over the country at this point that are saying, well, they failed to give notice this year, but as they have in the past. Well, a little problem with that, because if you look at the video, you'll see that I asked for them to produce the past notices. The principal said he would, no problem. He told me that in private right a few hours before the meeting. I reiterated that at the school board meeting. Everybody was like in agreement. I believe I looked at the principal, and he was like, nodding, yeah, no problem. And now I find out they've admitted, after I asked for the paperwork, that there wasn't only an oversight this year. There was an oversight last year too.
Well,
they didn't say that there was no notice last year. Okay, the last time they gave notice was 2007.
What?
Yes,
I have
fact admitted
7 years
by
ago.
the school board. Now, to be fair to them, they said that the book was only read in 2007, last year, and this year. That's what they've said. I don't know if that's a fact. I don't know if it's true. We're going to find out. But out of 3 years that they claim to have assigned this book, they've only given notice the first year 7 years ago.
And what I find really particularly interesting is that they produced the 2007 notice, right?
Yes, they did.
The 2000
they
or what
produced
the putative notice.
Well, they
what
produced it because I requested it, and I went to pick it up at the principal's office, and he's all right. I mean,
But the
whatever.
interesting thing is about that 2007 notice, if you read through it, it's more warning of the content than than what we call the non-notice notice that was sent
which
out.
they gave out after all this came up.
The apology notice. So it was more notifying of the content of the material in 2007 than it is in 2014. Does that maybe possibly suggest that isn't really the notice that went out?
I mean,
that's my opinion. That's
I'm gonna. I'd like to trust the school on this, but because there's been
No. I've already
no. I didn't say I will. I said I'd like to.
Yeah, I've already issued a right to know request
Right.
for
Well,
all materials stemming back to 2006, leading up to this book being included.
Well,
as part
our
of the
team.
curriculum.
There's no question. Our team will be forensically analyzing that document from that they claim is the 2007 notice to make sure it in fact is the 2007 notice. I mean, it's not that hard to confirm that if there is a problem, unless they're really, really good, which I doubt.
Yeah. Well, this isn't just for that notice, but I've asked for everything, for emails,
Right.
conversations,
meeting minutes and what have
the
you.
whole 9 yards.
I mean, I would be very surprised if they falsified a document.
Hold that thought, darling.
Yeah,
Pause.
yeah. I'm looking at Chairman Sue Allen,
right now.
Sue Allen, Kurt Weber, and a few others. Yeah.
Well,
You know,
we'll find out.
This is an abrogation of the public trust. These are people who say, we know what we want to do with our school system. And it's not ours, and it's not the people's anymore. It's their school board. And there is a group that says we want to run it the way that we want to. That's why these people keep getting elected over and over again. And when outsiders out from that group try to run, they get crushed because they're very good at turning out the vote for their kind of candidates, which are already on the board. And we've seen, I've watched this for years.
Well, we just saw Mr. Duncan get appointed, so come on.
Yeah.
If it isn't Guilford, it's the state.
So, you say that you haven't been sleeping for quite some time.
Well, I mean, I've slept just
Briefly.
terribly and intermittently.
What is the basic values or basic message that you have learned from this whole incident, based on not just the meeting itself, but going forward?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not naive. I've been involved with, my children are 14 and 16, and I've been involved with schools and all kinds of things for years, obviously, public schools. My wife actually worked in the public school system in New Jersey for almost 20 years, so she's seen it from the inside as well. Unfortunately, it's confirmed my worst suspicions that they don't want to hear from parents. Unfortunately, it's confirmed it, and I thought it would be different here. I know how it was in New Jersey; it was similar, but it was never confirmed personally like this. And it's very disturbing, very disappointing. We could have lived anywhere in the United States. We certainly could have lived anywhere in New Hampshire, and we very specifically chose Guilford for certain reasons, and among those, the school system. We thought it was, for a public school system, good. And my children are involved in the track team and soccer and everything. I mean, in many ways, they are the track team. I mean, there's some other talent, but they are the track team. I mean, if they leave that track team, they won't see a win for I don't know how long. But
Well, that would be fun.
you know, so and I mean to their credit, they're still participating in track, even though the track coach is the guy Joe Wernick, who was behind me, who basically stabbed me in the back, and he, I mean, really, he provoked me. I'm not saying that was his intention, but the effect was that he provoked me. I already had sat down, and I complied with the 2-minute thing. I went over 20 or 30 seconds the first time. They were gracious enough to not arrest me then, I guess, and. You know, but I sat down, I was going to behave, and I was going to let other people talk, you know, other people that were kind of on our side, let's say. I figured, all right, well, now they'd have to step up and use their 2 minutes wisely, better than I used mine, arguing about the 2-minute rule, basically. And
Joe Wernick.
so, I mean, if it weren't for Joe Wernick, and I understand I'm responsible for my own actions, but if it weren't for his comments, especially at the end, where he said, and those people want to, I'm paraphrasing, essentially ban books and not let my daughter read what we want her to read, which is obviously not the case, which is what I reacted to.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he's been well known in the community. I've had my run-ins as well as a few other.
I know
people.
him as the track coach.
Well,
you know?
he is definitely what I would call a schoolie to the nth degree, and I've had my run-ins with him where he has tried the same tactics, and it's basically. It comes down to government can do no ill, and they will support the government without regards to what the government is actually doing. Whereas it's obvious, you know, we share more of the same opinion than they do, and it really comes down to they will do what they can to defend their little turf, and they believe in
I
what
wish we had this conversation before the meeting.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. There is a progressive mantra. And I've posted it on Granite Rock, where there is this feeling that kids are the collective.
Right.
That they do believe the kids belong more to them, and especially to the schools. And there is that pervasive sense of teachers that the kids do belong to us more than they do belong to the parents. And you ran into it.
Well, Skip, let me give you a little history about how I feel about the concept of my children belonging in some way to the state. I understand the idea of community, and I understand the idea of society and progressing in a certain way. I get all that stuff. Like I said before, my wife worked in the school system for 20 years, almost 20 years before she gave up that job to move to New Hampshire. I mean, she gave up a really good job to move here with no job, basically, because we wanted to move out of New Jersey. We weren't being pursued by anybody. We just wanted to move out of there because we felt like New Jersey was going so far in the other direction. There was no recovery. We thought that here there was some hope that things could be turned around. Basically, she kept that job through the time my children were born, and I was home for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, essentially raising my children from the time they were infants, and rebuilding my house, practicing law, and basically doing that. So I hate the term, but I guess I'd have to be considered by some people who use a stay-at-home dad, which please don't attribute it to me. But that in effect is what I was, in addition to remodeling my own houses, working on building other houses and practicing law. And then my wife came home and we kind of switched roles, and I did my stuff and she kind of took over with the kids. So if people think that I'm like this chauvinist father, don't know what's going on, if anybody makes assumptions about me, I guarantee they're going to be wrong.
We here believe that parents are the primary responsibility for raising the children within the context of a family. And I do find repugnant the idea that Hillary Clinton said it takes a village, or Dr. Melissa Harris on MSNBC
recently.
Oh, please.
That I posted as well, saying we have too much of a private notion of what the children should be. The exact quote is on Granite Rock, but that gives you
I'd
the
like
flavor.
to see that quote.
Yeah, all you have to do is look up progressives and the proper role of government, and you can see the quote.
Right.
Because I'm trying to collect those kinds of what I consider anti-freedom, anti-liberty, the collectivist atmosphere. And really, I think that's what you ran into, because those notices and I haven't seen it yet. My kids got out of the Guilford school system, graduated out before that.
Oh, I didn't realize
But
you're a resident of Guilford?
I've been in Guilford for 30 years.
Oh, I didn't realize
So
that.
I've run into these people when
okay.
I was on the budget committee.
So this is particularly relevant for you, huh?
Oh,
personal.
you bet.
Wow.
You bet. I know Joe Wernick. He knows me.
Okay.
Same
Like
thing
I
with
said,
Kurt
to me,
Weber,
to
Sue
me, he
Ellen.
was an okay guy. He was the track coach. You know, that was
Until you cast aspersions on government. It's our little town. You can never.
well. So
You
I mean,
can't publish our dirty laundry outside.
so being an outsider from New Jersey, I must be like really.
Pariah comes to mind.
I guess I don't think in those terms. You know, so it's hard for me. I'm not projecting like that. That because I mean that wouldn't. It's like being an American. You're an American. You're an American.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
it is a little different here in New Hampshire. I've been here 30 years, and I'm still not considered to be a native.
And you're from.
Brockton, Massachusetts, originally.
Uh-huh.
So I am a long-term transplant. I came up for a job when the mini computer industry was melting down, but I stayed for the live free or die ethos,
Right.
which this is what we do here at Granite Crossing.
Right.
Let me just give you some perspective into that. I have in Vermont's a lot like New Hampshire. A friend of mine, his mother was a teacher in a little town in Vermont for 40 years. Okay, all her children were born there. All her grandchildren were born there. When she died, her local paper said, "New York woman passes away."
Wow.
Oi.
That's you aren't from there.
Wow.
These little towns. Just wanted to interject that.
Amazing.
So I mean, that's the perspective, and the people who come in and take over towns like that and create these little fiefdoms of their own, they are very, very controlling. Even in
Oh,
in
I guess that's why we get a reduction on our property taxes because we're not.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, we don't.
Yes,
you don't get the not from here reduction.
and we're going to do an extra segment.
We're going to do an extra segment. We're going to take 60 seconds real quick. We're going to come back. We're going to do another 15 minutes so that we have a whole half hour. Stay tuned. This is GrokTALK.
Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
Grok TV.